Hi, this is Stuart Weems, and welcome to the Investopoly podcast. My goal is to share easy to understand, evidence based, holistic insights to help you master the game of building wealth. In my regular Wednesday episodes, I talk about the theory, methodologies, and principles associated with investing. The aim of these case study episodes is to share how it's worked out in the real world and share some client stories with you. And today, I would like to share an experience as well as really tell a story that is really about looking after your loved ones and making sure that they are prepared in case you pass away. Well, we're all going to pass away at some point, but I guess in case you pass away before they do, and to make that process or that situation as easy as possible, which is kind of ridiculous to say. I get that, but it is what it is, and I just want to share this experience. So I began working with my client. He was a husband to obviously his wife in 2009. It's about 15 years ago. Well, that's when my business started dealing with him. He had another advisor that was an employee of the business that developed the strategy initially, and the strategy really involved, focusing on debt reduction, contributing to super, leveraging in super, so borrowing to invest in property, as well as invest in the share market. And the client was sort of income rich, asset poor, a little bit later, started a little bit later in life, and found himself in this situation where he had to kind of take a little bit more risk than he would have otherwise preferred, just because his time horizon was relatively short. And because of that, we weren't able to build a strategy that allowed him to retire non-tax deductible debt in full. So his strategy also included a downsizing of the family home at some point, and that would contribute to the retirement of debt. So we started working with this client in 2009. I think I started dealing with him in terms of looking after him 2012, 13, 14, somewhere around that time. And unfortunately, the client passed away unexpectedly, quite peacefully, in fact, in his sleep, if we're going to look for the silver lining in it, towards the end of 2018. And unfortunately, up until that time, I'd never met his wife. And in fact, she really wasn't involved in the financial decision making, really left it all to her husband, and her husband sort of controlled that. So unfortunately, in early 2019, I had the opportunity to meet his wife, but under terrible circumstances. Under circumstances where she had unexpectedly lost her husband that she really relied upon, particularly from a financial management situation. They had a self-managed super fund, a share portfolio, an investment property in super with a loan against it, as well as managed funds inside super. There's a lot to get a head around in a very short space of time under exceptionally trying conditions. Obviously dealing with the grief, and her life totally changed on one afternoon when her husband thought, I'll have a lie down, and unfortunately passed away in his sleep. What's more sort of concerning from my perspective is that we had a review scheduled in early 2019. So my client passed away in late December in 18. We had a review scheduled for earlier that year, the next year, 19, where I was going to discuss updating his will. And to add insult to injury, because of the cost, we actually cancelled life insurance 2 years earlier in 2017. Now, we don't regret, or I don't look back. I mean, if I'd have known, if we could tell when someone's going to pass away, of course we wouldn't cancel it, but it was just cost prohibitive. We kept it for a lot longer probably than what was palatable to do so, but these things just sort of work out. And I guess what it reminds us is no one has a clear timeline here in terms of when they're going to pass away. And, just try to make it as easy as possible on the loved ones that we leave behind. So, over the last 5 years, we've made some really difficult decisions for his wife. She had to make the decision to sell the family home, as well as that comes, anyone that sold a home and downsized would know that comes with the responsibility to throw out a lot of stuff, to go through all the cupboards and those sorts of things. It's challenging. Buy a replacement home. Again, she wanted to buy in an area that, was going to be close to her kids and her friends and those sorts of things. We had to do that, help her understand the investments and how everything's structured and so forth. And then as a result of downsizing home, there was a bunch of cash that we had to invest and put that to work. So there's been a lot of really important decisions. We've had to sort of time them with market conditions. And in fact, when I look back now, 5 years later, I can't believe it's been 5 years since unfortunately we lost her husband. She's now in an excellent position and going to enjoy a really comfortable retirement, albeit without a husband, which I'm sure causes her no end of pain. But it's good, that a really stressful situation, a really unfortunate situation has turned out really well. And in fact, she sold her family home for, I think, a very full price. Like the timing was absolutely perfect. And she's bought a replacement asset, which we don't really care about, or we're not relying upon capital growth, but I think she's got herself an excellent replacement asset as well, thanks to the buyer's agents that we worked with both on the sale transaction and the purchase. And she's got herself in a financial situation where she doesn't need to worry about money. So, I think my client's looking down, being pleased with the results in terms of looking after her financially. So what can we learn from this? Well, the first thing that I learned, the biggest thing that I learned was that I need to really build a relationship with both husband and wife, or both spouses, whatever sex they might be. That it's natural and common that one spouse deals with the finances and the money and the financial decisions and those sorts of things. And that's fine if that's where their skill set and interest lie, then that's a natural thing to occur. But, if the other spouse isn't involved on a regular basis, they should be involved on an irregular basis, and certainly having met me under circumstances that weren't as trying as that. Because I think if I had have previously met my client's wife, I wouldn't have had to build that trust and rapport and relationship in very difficult conditions. And hopefully, if she had have met me previously, maybe she would have felt more comfortable and less stressed a lot faster. And that's really the most important thing. Of course, she spoke to her husband about our relationship in terms of a financial advisor relationship, of course, previously. So she, it came with a bit of trust, but, it's a very stressful time in order to build that relationship. And the other key learning, I guess, is make sure everything's up to date. Make sure your wills are up to date. Passwords are saved in a password manager. Make sure your partner, if they're not involved in the financial decision making or less so than you are, make sure they know where everything is, what assets they've got, all those sorts of things. We just don't know when the time will occur, of course. Introduce them to all the key advisors, that just so they can put a face to a name and, be able to reach out to the right people if and when they need to. That's what I've kind of learned from that experience. Terrible experience. Turned out much better than I would have anticipated, which is fantastic, which is so pleasing, but has given me a really important learning, which I will take through with me for the rest of my personal and professional life. So I thought it was a good one to share. And until tomorrow, bye for now.